welcome to this ESOL lesson planning screencast. I'm Robin Martinez and we're looking at productive skills speaking today. This is my methodology pill number 26. Now, we've been looking at the different frameworks for different lessons, and today we're going to be looking at the suggested stages for a speaking lesson. Now, speaking being a productive skill is usually incorporated in all the other different lesson frameworks where we provide students with practice. We try and make them talk about different things during the lesson, or practice target language for your practices, usually but not always in spoken form. So very often we don't have purely speaking lessons. However, being a skill, in this case a productive skill, we can suggest some stages for a speaking lesson. As we mentioned before, we have basically a leading warmer, pre-teach vocabulary, a PTV stage if necessary, as I mentioned in the other screencasts, then skimming or listening for gist, because we would probably have a text, like following a text-based presentation. Then we would have a text that models the speaking task that the students will be doing. Then this would be followed by a preparation stage where the focus is on one specific area of speaking. It could be appropriacy, it could be connected speech, it could be functions or fluency or accuracy. So this is very, very important, because sometimes people think that when they say, well, I'll give my students some speaking practice, they think that that's enough. Now, this is definitely not enough. Speaking being a skill, there are other soft skills which you would be focusing on and narrowing it down in the lesson so that students can actually get something out of it. So the preparation stage would be very, very important, because then, that's the stage where you would focus on something specifically. The preparation stage and task analysis would be the next stage, where you set an activity which naturally requires students to use the features of the aspects of speaking intended above. So here you prepare by focusing the students' attention on one aspect, one soft skill, one speaking soft skill. Obviously there are more. Here I'm just highlighting probably some of the most common ones. And then you analyze the task that you want, through which the students then need to use the features of the language above. You would then give them some control practice so that they work on their accuracy of any of those areas of speaking, and also some freer practice for fluency. And you would finish the lesson with feedback and clarification. So let's take a quick look at each of the stages with some examples. So if we look at leading and warmer, we've been saying that it is like cutting the ribbon and having like a grand opening. And we said that creative openings have a positive effect on learning, because they increase concentration, they increase imagination, they stimulate curiosity, foster motivation, and develop creative responses. So we want to make sure that we start the lesson with a nice lead-in that is creative and that we capture the students' attention. Ideas for lead-ins and warmers, we mentioned Wordle before, so Wordle.net, where you can create a word cloud. There's also Tagxedo, where you can also create word clouds in different shapes. You can give them the word cloud to set the context and ask them to talk about what they think the context is, or what those words have in common, etc. You could also give them an activity. You could do an activity called Hot and Cold, where you give them a set of words from the text that they're going to listen to or read, and then you ask them to classify them into hot and cold words. Obviously there's no right or wrong answer, but you're going to ask them to do this so that they start, you get the juices flowing and you get them thinking and using their brain. You could also let them listen to the snippet of a song if you're going to be using a song or something similar, or a song related or a video related to the context. You could ask them one topic related questions. For example, you're talking about food, then some questions to warm them up could be, what's your favorite food, when do you have it, why do you like it, why not, and things along those lines. You could also have visuals. You know what they say, a visual is worth 1,000 words, so you could have some visuals so that they you use them as triggers and then ask some topic related questions, for example. You could have topic related noises, as I mentioned before, clip art. You can get some sound files of specific noises. So if you're looking at animals, that would be very nice, even with adults, to let them listen to different noises and then have them identify the animals, or make them talk about those, what the topic is, and then ask them questions, what they think of animals, do they have a pet or not. You could also bring realia into the classroom, so different props. For example, if it is clothes, then bringing in clothes for them to see, or things along those lines. You could also play charades, where you mime the topic, and in groups they have to guess. Or you could also have word divided, give them a set of words where they basically have to divide them into colors. Obviously, just as hot and cold, there is no here, these two are related because there are no right or wrong answers. It's just to get them going, to get them thinking, to make them hypothesize, speculate, and talk in the lesson. Now, those are some ideas for leading and warmers. Pre-teaching vocabulary, as I said before, if necessary. It may not be necessary to pre-teach vocabulary. Remember what Harmer says, that basically if you would pre-teach those 3, 4, 5 words that might impede their understanding, stop them from understanding the general meaning of the text, or that would stop them from being able to answer the gist or scanning task or listening for detailed tasks. So some ideas for pre-teaching vocabulary, if necessary, would be having maybe a visual word matching exercise, or make the students brainstorm and make a list of potential words or vocabulary that would be included in the text, and then go through it with them. You could mime them, you can mime some of the words, you could give them a word definition matching if you want to make it a little bit more challenging depending on the level. You could also have visuals for students to make a list individually and then check, or you could have students label a picture or pictures on the whiteboard with post-it notes, so some sort of like diagnostic activity on what they know. Important to remember that pre-teaching, PTV stage, pre-teaching vocabulary, if necessary, and whenever you do it, we would focus mainly only on meaning, because it's instrumental so that they can then answer the gist or detailed information tasks. Then, some ideas for skimming or listening for gist. We have, basically, we can make them make predictions, then they read and check, or they listen to the text and check their predictions. We could give them one true-false question that basically is a general question, so that important to bear in mind is that the questions that we ask, if it is true or false or open-ended question, that the answer is not at the beginning of the reading or the listening activity, because it defeats the purpose of having to listen to the whole text or read the whole text. Another activity could be match pictures with extracts, or give one gist question. Most people ask, like, what is the text about? At lower levels, you may ask that and then give them options. Is it about A, B, or C, to support them, to scaffold the task a little bit. However, gist question doesn't necessarily have to be what is the text about. Students can order pictures of the text, or students can read and listen to the text and then choose one picture from different pictures, or students may listen to the text or read the text and then choose a heading or a summary. So those are some ideas for skimming or listening for gist. Once that has been done, then obviously all of these are in line with the context. Then we would look at preparation, and in preparation for speaking, we would be focusing their students' attention on the area of speaking, that the soft skill of speaking that you want to focus your lesson on. It may be fluency, it could be functions. Very important to remember about functions that they can also be approached from a language point of view, or it could be accuracy, it could be connected speech that you're going to be working on, it could be appropriacy, and many more. I mean, these are basically four that I give here as examples that you might focus your lesson on. So remember that just saying that, oh, I'm doing some speaking doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to benefit from it, because speaking is the skill, and you need to focus on a soft skill, usually one that students are having problems with, so that you can help them address that problem and become better at speaking. Now, some ideas, those were some ideas for preparation. So you focus on one of those areas. Students understand clearly what it is that you're going to focus on. And then you look at the task, and you would analyze the task while talking with them. So basically, your job for the task analysis is to test the activities that you want the students to do before you do them with them, so in your preparation stage, and then think whether students can actually do them. So have they got the language needed? Some ideas would be to clearly demonstrate a task, so don't tell them about it, but demonstrate a task. Let them listen to a model task, just as in task-based learning, or let them explore the task with their own resources before you actually give some input. You could also monitor from afar to encourage independence, and you can watch also the Speaking Skills Methodology Pill number 13 to get some extra ideas of the stages and of the different things that you could do. Then, once you've done that, then the idea is that you give them some control practice of that specific area of speaking. So if it is a role play and you want them to be using certain functions accurately, then you would probably give them control practice for accuracy. Now, here I have basically a link to a word book, which doesn't necessarily, you may say, how is it relevant? Well, the idea is just that control practice is usually done for accuracy, and one of the examples where we find control practice exercises is the workbook. So with that in mind, so control practice for accuracy, the idea is that we give them the possibility to rehearse the task in a controlled environment, so that they can think about the accuracy of that task, how if they're using the language there appropriately, if they're connected speech in that activity, if they're doing it correctly, if you're looking, for example, at weak and strong forms, for example. And then freer practice, obviously that would be for fluency, and again it would probably be repeating the task, but this time not thinking about how accurate they're doing it, but how fluently they're doing it. So for example, this would be very relevant to like connected speech. Connected speech in general, you wouldn't really hear it unless you're talking naturally or in a relaxed environment, rather than trying to articulate what you're saying, because then those elements of connected speech wouldn't probably be there. So here I have some examples leading to basic freer practice. Usually would be speaking, and if this is a speaking lesson, that's probably what they have to do. But I have also put this picture here, making you think of writing, because there can be a little bit of preparation before they actually practice the activity in a freer way. Remember that it says freer, not free. So there's a little bit of an element of control there to ensure that they're actually using the language, or in this case the target focus, whether it is a prophecy or connected speech or whatever it is, fluently. So obviously you would then wrap up the lesson by giving them some feedback and clarification of some stage, and that could be done by giving them some error correction on what students said, or mainly said if this is a speaking lesson. So you could ask yes, no, or true or false questions. You could have A or B questions. You could do some whiteboard work, drawing tables, etc. Boarding whatever it is that you heard that students were saying, and to check, to give them feedback on how they use the language in the speaking task and how relevant that use was in terms of the focus for the lesson. Now, in terms of timing, obviously remember that these methodology pills are aimed at CELTA candidates, and therefore the times are a little bit restricted in the sense that we're aiming at a 40-minute lesson. However, longer lessons can be obviously adapted, and the timings can be adapted proportionally. So here are some of the timings that we suggest for these stages, and that's aiming at a 40-minute lesson typical of the course. So these are pretty much the same as before. 3 minutes for a leading warmer, 3 to 5 minutes for pre-teaching vocabulary. Obviously, you're not pre-teaching vocabulary. That time could be incorporated onto any of the other stages. 5 minutes to do the skimming or listening for gist. 5 minutes of preparation. Remember that you would have everything ready so that you can help them focus on whichever area, sub-skill it is that you want to focus on in your lesson. Then task analysis, 5 minutes. You may have a little bit more time if you don't have any PTV stage. Then control practice, freer practice, and then feedback and clarification. Okay, so in short, then recapping, basically this is a quick screencast on how to prepare a speaking lesson, a purely speaking lesson. This would also help you with assignment 3, where you have to address productive skills. So if you were focusing on speaking in assignment 3 on part 3, then you have the different stages that you would be required to at least mention and say how and what you're going to do at each stage. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and stay tuned for my next methodology pill. Thank you.